Dale, I have a great episode coming up for you here. Lata Hamilton, amazing background in change management, but also really empowering and engaging employees on help them on their career journey and really own their path, but also, of course, the outcomes we get from that around value creation and benefits to really move an organization forward. It's going to be a great show. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast, where we share knowledge from global experts in how to create high-performance, agile cultures of continuous improvement and innovation. Cultures where employees wake up smiling and excited to go to work and make a difference. Cultures where leaders feel they have the time to proactively serve the growth of themselves and others.
I'm your host, Brad Jevons, coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. By improving our organisations, we create a better future for generations to come. An economy where our children and grandchildren can experience the joy of owning their first home. An environment where they can enjoy holidays on clean beaches and marvel at the beauty of nature. A future where they feel safe, respected, and empowered to make a difference at work, bringing that energy home to their families and communities. This show is proudly brought to you by the Enterprise Excellence Community and Group, which is focused on helping organisations create this better future through this podcast, our community, where you can engage with global experts, tour best practice sites, and also our workshops focused on the most important topics to truly help your organisation improve into the future for those it serves. Visit enterpriseexcellencegroup.com.au to learn more. Welcome to episode 193 of the Enterprise Excellence Podcast.
It is such a pleasure to have Lata Hamilton on the show with us today. Lata is a change leadership and confidence expert, author of Pioneer Your Career Change, and the creator of Leading Successful Change program. Lata believes everyone deserves to experience the magic of change. And when you transform that experience for others, you transform it for yourself as well. She helps leaders carve their own paths to change in career, leadership, and life, and support their teams to find their feet and find their futures. Lata has worked with some of Australia's biggest companies on change that have impacted over 100,000 people, operating model changes impacting thousands, global cultural transformations, and digital transformations that is literally changing the way that we work. Let's get into the episode. Lata, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Brad. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So, Lata, today we're talking about really around employer of choice and really organizations leaning into that. Like, why is it important that organizations really think about this right now, how to become an employer of choice?
Yeah, I think that times are changing, Brad. If we think about sort of the good old days, probably even before my time, there was the opportunity to be very command and control. Like you could have leadership being already the people with authority, and everybody else would just fall in line. But times have absolutely changed. We know now that we need to engage our employees. We know that just by telling somebody to do something doesn't mean that they'll actually do it, or they might do it on the surface, but then be, hiding things behind the scenes and sort of backtracking or finding backdoors or loopholes for how to be able to resist that or not have to do what they say that they're doing. But then also just if we think about the sentiment from employees and our workforce now, people want meaningful work. They want to be in a place where they feel like they can make a difference. They want to be supported and celebrated and recognized and given the opportunity, I think, to have a hand and to have a say in what's going on. And then obviously through COVID, we saw this really amplify. So we saw with the move to remote work, a bit of a shift, I guess, in the power dynamics and a bit of a shift in employees having more control over how they do things. So we've just sort of seen it escalate, and now we're in this sort of new world post-COVID, and we're trying to find our feet, trying to find that happy balance, because we still do need to absolutely have productivity. We still do need to have output. We still do need to meet our business goals, but we need to do so recognizing that the sentiment has shifted in our employee base.
It's a real opportunity too, isn't it, Lada? I guess when it comes down to it, engage people more, inspire people more, and help them have a voice and have a say, and then drive productivity off the back of it. It sounds like a win-win to me, really, in
Yeah.
essence to it. Yeah,
Absolutely. And if you think about the customer experience, which, I've got a marketing background, so I work as an organizational change management consultant now. But my background, when I first moved into the corporate space, was in marketing. So I always think I'm like, if we're not doing something for our customers or whoever is your, inverted commas, customer, so that could be customers, client, community, whatever it is for you. If we're not doing it for them, then like, what's the point? And if you
yeah,
think about who does the customer interface with, they interface with our people. So if we want to make sure that our customers have a great experience and then they, buy more or do more with us, we need to make sure that the people that they're interfacing with are happy and positive and are going to provide that next level of customer experience and customer service, because that ultimately impacts the bottom line.
yeah, too true. As you're saying that, Lada, I was thinking of the old Virgin Richard Branson's approach, which is really lean in on the people and create that great engaged culture, because it's our people who create the great outcomes for customers. It's a good case example of, I guess, of what you're saying there on that approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lada, with these aspects of, creating meaning at work and celebration and recognition and, and setting up so people can have a say and make a difference, like how can organizations go about actually improving this? Like, I guess every company's at a certain level now of employee engagement or not. And I guess if you look at the global stats, it's pretty scary. Like, I think what Gallup, 23% of engagement worldwide of employees. But how can organizations go about this journey? What would you recommend?
It's probably going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, but it's not your job as an employer to be the be all and end all for your employees. They have to come to the party themselves. And that might sound a bit strange, sort of coming from somebody who obviously does love to talk about inspiring and empowering workforces. But I think that we've sort of gotten into this area when it comes to the employer-employee relationship, where the onus is too far on the employer at the moment, where it's like, you're expected as an employer to be everything to your employees, that you're expected to not just provide the paycheck and provide the work that comes day to day, but that you're expected to also be a mental health champion. You're also expected to provide well-being benefits. You're also expected to provide, like sometimes like financial, not advice, but like guides or opportunities to help people with that. Like we're seeing so many of these, policies, procedures, opportunities, like charity events within an organization to almost cover every aspect of a person's life. And I do think that there is something about employees taking some of that power back for themselves, where it's not just the employer's job to set performance metrics and development goals, that actually employees do that for themselves as well, that they actually have an outside of their work channel and outside of their work arena where they can actually have space, like open up space for them to think about their career and to think about how that intersects with the rest of their life. Because if you do that only within the area of your workplace, it's like you're always constrained by the boundary conditions of your workplace. And there's always a vested interest in a leader or a HR person, like essentially their responsibilities to the company. They are agents of the company, and that's the right thing. They are meant to be agents of that entity. So each individual, and I say this in my book, my new book, Pioneer Your Career Change, each individual needs to treat themselves like a business and take some of that ownership and power sort of back for themselves. Because I think when we do that, when we stop having such a paternalistic view of the employer-employee relationship and we stop trying to be everything to everyone, that where it's not that you don't need to acknowledge it, but it's that you don't necessarily need to be the one that provides the solution. So like there are other avenues and channels where people could be getting this advice. They're where people could be getting the support that they need. They don't have to get it only from their employer. And so when you start to do that, I think you start to balance the opportunity and the outcomes that happen within a workplace and from a productivity perspective. So it's probably something that people wouldn't expect like a change management consultant to say. But I really think that it is this balance. It's building up leaders to lead change and lead their people and actually giving them the leadership skills. I say that a lot of leaders maybe weren't even ever planning to be leaders. They might have just gotten to leadership positions because of the 3 T's: tenure, they've been there a long time; technical skill, they know some stuff; or nepotism, which doesn't start with a T but has a T in it. They know somebody. And so there's so many leaders out there. They never maybe planned to be leaders, or they got thrown into the position, or it was just the next logical step for them in their career. And it was the only way to, get a pay rise or get a promotion was to go into a leadership role, even if they have no passion or inclination for it. And so it's providing, if you're going to put somebody in a leadership role, coach them, give them the training, give them the support to be a great people leader. And then on the other side, balance that by inspiring and empowering your employees to take ownership of their own career, take ownership of their work. You want to breed this culture of high performance, but also high fulfillment, where people are really empowered around their own role. And when you're able to do that and you're able to find that happy balance, that is where the magic happens.
I love it. It's like really creating that ownership and accountability, but also the self-leadership. Everyone's a leader, to consider your career and to plan your career and take your career forward. But how do you see organizations going about that where, okay, it's about developing our leaders, yes, so that they can lead and grow people and set that vision and that direction and help inspire. But then the key part there that you're mentioning, which is to create where employees really start to own their career, own their path forward, and start to plan and develop that themselves.
I mean, I think because I am a change expert, excuse me, because I am a change expert, I would say, during organizational change is a great opportunity. You've created this environment where there is a little bit of the flux, where you can sort of start to make tweaks and shifts to culture, to expectations, to ways of working, and you can kind of sidle it up to the organizational change. So if you're listening and you don't know what organizational change management is, I'm sure you do, but if you don't, I love to define things really simply. So I say organizational change is moving people from doing things in one way to doing things in a new way. And we do that through communications, training, and business readiness. And we don't just do organizational change for the fun of it. We actually do it to realize the business benefits. It's not just about making people feel good. It's actually so that we can get better results, better return on investment, better outcomes from the project or the transformation or the team. So it can be any kind of organizational change. It can be, a new process or a changed process. It could be a new system, platform, application, technology. It can be a new team structure or operating model change. It can be a new product or service or a change to an existing product or service, mergers, acquisitions. It could be the move to remote work, the move back to the office, a regulatory change, a compliance change, ESG. There's so many different types of organizational changes out there, and any of those can be supported by change management to help people feel informed, inspired, confident, and ready for the change, so they can do it at transition and keep doing it successfully into the future. So if you think about it, when your organization is going through, whether it's a team, a department, or a full organizational change, when they're going through change, that is a great opportunity to start to shift and transform how people think about themselves, how people think about their role, and what their opportunities are. So this could look like, something that I sometimes work with my clients on is that we might be planning out the organizational change, And even before we have announced the change to the people in the organization, we might put the leaders through a leading change capability program, and where we give them skills on how to have coaching conversations, where we give them skills around how to lead change and how they might feel when they lead change, where we give them skills around how they can plot out and plan out their change for their team. I'm really passionate with change management. Over the last 20, 25 years, when change management's been a discipline, it's often the change management delivery skills have often been in the hands of the change management practitioners. So they're the ones that know how to use the tools and templates and techniques. And I'm super passionate about democratizing change management, about getting it into the hands of more people, more leaders, more project managers, more HR partners, all of the people who support people or lead change in an organization, to get these tools, templates, and techniques into everybody's hands, because everybody's going to have to lead change for their people. And then if you practice on, say, maybe like a tiny change that might be like a little process change in your team, then when the big bucket, the big ticket item of big organizational transformations or technology transformations or operating model changes, when they come flowing down, the leaders are already a little bit skilled in that. So often, I'll actually run capability programs for senior leadership team or frontline leaders or executive suite, and I'll run those, and I won't even be talking about necessarily a specific change, even though we know that on the horizon is probably a big transformation, but I won't even be talking about a specific change. I'll be just talking about change generally, because my aim is to actually have people starting to use these tools, templates, and techniques I teach in a really practical, fit for purpose way. Use that stuff from today. You don't need to wait for a big transformation to use these really powerful tools and techniques.
It's a great concept, isn't it? So building leaders' capability to actually lead change. And like you said, as part of that, the change could be, how do I lead my people's awareness to actually stop being so paternal or having them being so servient, and help them start to think about their career direction and their career path themselves and their own ownership.
Yeah. And I think it's really important, actually, Brad, about that ownership, simply because if you think about the future of work, we don't have the answers.
Yeah.
We don't have the answers. We don't know what's going to happen.
And capability and skills are so critical. Like, so many reports are just coming out now that, we need people thinking about how to progress themselves and grow themselves and build these additional skills we need now. It's not even the future, it's now. Yeah. So what you're saying is, the more that we can empower and inspire in frontline employees to start to think about their career, think about their own development, start to think about their own change and own their own change, it'll create good outcomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lata, what part does the leader play or not play in starting to shift that thinking in their teams, or to help with that?
I think, what a leader focuses on is often what an employee focuses on. So, we've got a lot of conversations at the moment about productivity, because it's post-COVID. There's a lot out there around, mandates to return to the office 5 days a week. And, we're seeing that a lot in Australia, and I'm guessing that that's probably happening as well globally, maybe some countries more so than others, but it's absolutely happening a lot in Australia. And so, if leaders are focused on productivity, then that you would kind of assume that that's sometimes what you would kind of assume that that's then what employees would focus on. But the thing is that you have to make sure that your leaders are focused on the right thing, because something that I like to say is, you can't use this productivity argument to try and do a back to the office 5 days a week mandate if you didn't measure productivity properly before COVID, because you have no baseline to compare it against. So post-COVID, you can't say your people are less productive unless you have extremely tangible metrics and measures and evidence that before COVID, they created this amount of output from being in the office 5 days or flexibly. And a lot of organizations don't. Like, a lot of organizations spout performance and growth and all of these things, and they aren't measuring this stuff consistently. Like, it's something that we do in change management, is we try to come and bring in these success measures at the beginning and create a baseline before the change is even announced, because we want to truly see what happens in the change. And then as part of change management, we'll also plan for post-transition, so post-go live. How are you going to measure that? What reporting and metrics and tools are you going to use to measure that into the future? Because we want to embed the benefits. We want to actually see those benefits realized for years to come, months and years to come. So I just see that the productivity argument is kind of like, like a house of cards. Like, it's not founded on anything really strong and stable. It kind of breaks down very quickly because there isn't that evidence from 5 years ago before COVID, where there is those really clear metrics. And I just think that, like, from an employee perspective, what employees want is they want to do good work. They actually want to do good work. They want to show up to work. That's actually like got a lot of passion, fulfillment, purpose comes through their work. But they want to be measured on the right things. So instead of being measured on like productivity, which is often, time and output. So how much did you create in the amount of time that you had? Which, to be honest, like most full-time roles, we don't measure people like that. We don't measure people by the output. We measure people by, were they sitting in their seat at their desk from 8 till 5, 9 till 5, 5 days a week. That's not value. Somebody sitting in their desk, like, we know that presenteeism is a thing, and it's probably more prevalent now post-COVID when people are being forced back into the office, that this presenteeism is happening. They're going to work, but they're not doing the work, because that's not the way that, like, it's very difficult for an individual to work non-stop from 9 to 5, especially on like knowledge-based work, information-based work, to have that level of attention and that level of focus from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So we already know that, like, time and output isn't the right way to measure. So then the question is, well, what is the right way? And for me, I really think that we're seeing a big shift towards measuring on value, which is less about how much time and the output and actually more about the value and the outcomes. It's like, can you achieve this stuff that we need to achieve? How you do it, we don't care. Where you do it from, we don't care. But make it happen. And then the flip side of that as well is that if you give people the opportunity and the flexibility to do that, you can also start to shift the employment structures. So I think one of the big challenges that industry is going to face in the coming years, especially with the introduction of, artificial intelligence in our day-to-day work, where a lot of menial tasks are going to get taken over by this technology. And we already have seen it starting to happen, obviously, in the blue collar area around automation. And then for white collar workers, information knowledge-based workers, it'll be more artificial intelligence. With that, we are absolutely going to see that when people are putting the work out there, that you probably are going to find that you've got these people who are working full-time, but you don't have the work for them to be full-time. And because you've got employees who would love flexibility, and many employees would actually love to be part-time, but we're just in this situation from an industrial era where most of the work is full-time 9 to 5, you will actually be able to potentially transition to more, and we're seeing the rise of this right now, more fractional work, fractional consulting, independent freelancing, where people come in to deliver an outcome. They come in to deliver the value that's in scope, and they might do that in 6 weeks instead of 6 months or 6 years. So you get experts who come in for a shorter period of time to deliver something quickly. And I think we'll start to see that really ramp up. I think it's already starting globally. And I'm a great example of that. Like, I'm a change management consultant. I'm an independent consultant. And I think we'll see that really start to ramp up. And I think it's going to take some changes maybe to our industrial relations laws and policies, to help support that shift to more, I don't want to say contingent based work, because like it's actually more empowering work, and it will deliver more value in the long run.
I totally agree with you, Lara. I think it's a great point, because there's roles in workplaces which are required to be producing the day to day and just day to day. But there's also roles which are change, and like you and I, where it's like it's not needed all the time. And then there's roles also that are very spiky, I see too, Lata, in businesses. It's like there's a spike at the start of the month and a spike at the end of the month. And it's like, well, what do we do in between? But the other thing I think of when you're talking is there's this guy, the Parkinson's law, it was studied back in 1909, which is that basically often as humans, we will fill up the time. If there is something for us to do and we've got to do this thing and we're there for the every day of the year, we'll fill up the time. But actually what you're talking about can break Parkinson's law a bit, because it's like, no, you're embedded, you're executing full bore on the value add for that time, and then you're out, or you're on to the next one. Yeah, it's great thinking. I guess in today's world, we got the capability to do it, but a lot of organizations are just hiring people full time all the time to do roles that really, it's not about that, which is amazing.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of empire builders, if you think about sort of like the baby boomers and even Gen X, like the model that they were shown was the bigger the team, the more productivity. The bigger the team, the more important you are. The bigger the team, the more resources you'll be able to suck from the organization. And the truth of the matter is, small, high-performing teams can deliver much more, much faster than big, bloated teams, especially big, bloated BAU, like business as usual teams. Some of the biggest transformations that I've worked on, where we've been impacting tens of thousands of people's roles and work structures and sometimes pay and things like that, have been delivered by a very, very lean team of really passionate, expert, committed people who have just come in, and we've just hothoused this transformation, and we've gotten incredible results and incredible progress really quickly, because we've hired the right people and we've put the right focus on it, and we've simplified and we've prioritized, which, we know that in organizations, there's so much change. People are so fatigued. They are so exhausted constantly. Like, we've never really fully recovered from COVID. We were busy before COVID. COVID then threw a new type of busy into the mix, and we've never really fully recovered, because change just keeps coming, and it's coming faster and faster because technology is changing faster and faster. Like, if I think about even over the last, say, 12 to 18 months, it was AI was like a little burst of information, like a kind of shiny new object. And really quickly, the number of AI tools and platforms that have come out in the last year has exploded. And 20 years ago, it would take 3 years to get that level, or more, sometimes 10 years to get that level of technology. But now we're in a position, in a situation where the ability to create new technologies is just accelerated and amplified, and then that's driving organizational change internally, and people are just exhausted. So if you can really simplify and prioritize the really key big ticket items, or even sometimes small changes, small quick wins can have big impacts if you prioritize the right things. If you can do that for people and get them through the change faster, yes, it might feel a bit but if you can get them through the change faster, instead of taking 1 to 2 years to do a digital transformation, take 4 to 5 months, you are going to have a more robust workforce. You're going to have happier people. They're not going to be kept in this limbo state for 2 years. They're going to know where they land on the other side of it. You're going to be able to keep up that momentum and that energy. So sometimes it really is about doing fewer things faster rather than all the things and just it never ending, and you're just being on
Yeah.
this constant circuit of change.
I think, Lata, it's quite funny, discussing it because we all know that our technology world has amped up its capability to innovate through small autonomous teams, where those teams own their path and own their future. And hey, far out, they're productive and high quality, and they can produce value, and it's like their small business. And then you and I are talking about creating that for frontline employees, where they're involved, they own it, they own their path, they own their direction. And then we're talking about managing change within a company the same way, using small, highly focused, potentially temporary teams rather than permanent teams that then end up filling up their time with other things.
Yeah.
It all leans to common themes, doesn't it? Empowered small autonomous teams where they own their direction and can really make a difference. And I guess the key theme is organizations thinking about what that looks like for you, I guess is what we're saying. What does that look like for you? Yeah. Lada, what would be your enterprise excellence tip to a company where it's like we're talking about this concept of giving more autonomy to frontline employees and change and small teams and really trying to create that ownership even of your career, but also, of course, of the work you do?
I think it's getting people involved. Like I still work with a lot of clients today, and I'll go and maybe I'll be working with them on a digital transformation, like they're implementing an enterprise resource platform. And they've been sold the shiny object from the technology vendor, who is like, this is the most whiz bang thing in the world. Like, you don't need to do anything internally in your organization because this solution is going to take care of it all. Like, you've all been there, you've all heard it, you probably bought the story. But what happens is like you're missing, like just because they're selling the solution doesn't mean that you shouldn't go through the process and the path of setting up that change for success. And I kind of think of it as, if you remember back in school, and this was my worst subject, so I'm probably going to get things wrong. But if you remember back in school, like maths, and you would get, 1 point or half your marks from the right solution, so the right answer, but then half your marks would come from working out. And so it's like, yep, you could have the right answer, but if you didn't show the working out and how you got there, you wouldn't get 50% of the result. Vice versa, you can have all the working out, but if you didn't get the right result, it's like, well, what was the point? And I like to think about that with change management, because if you think about it, it's like so much of the time what we do when we're implementing a change such as the digital transformation, which is one of my favorite things to work on, digital transformation, because it touches everything else in the business, and it often leads to an operating model change or a change in ways of working and a change in culture and things like that. So I love digital transformations. So if we think about it, it's like that is your opportunity to engage your people along the journey. So instead of just like bringing in this solution and dumping it on them, engage them along the process. I see a lot of clients, they don't do any current process mapping because the vendor has sold them on this dream of this new solution, which is best practice and everything like that. But it's like, you've got to take your people from where they are now to that new solution. You can't just expect them to just like jump over this huge leap, this huge gap in not just capability, but in understanding, in maturity often of the way that they think. And so like often when I'm sort of like planning out the support that I'll provide and the services I'll provide for a client, I'll include capability builds like insights generation or business partnering, because those are the types of skill sets that people are going to need when they get this whiz bang solution. They don't have them right now. They're not great at that stuff today. What's the point of having all of this data at your fingertip or all of this opportunity for growth if your people can't actually leverage that data or leverage those opportunities? So it's taking people on the journey, but it's also like, the process of, say, for example, current process mapping, going through that activity with your people. It's not just about, oh yeah, we want to have the output of like process maps, like as is process maps, but it's also an engagement opportunity. You're helping people understand what they actually do today, because most people can't articulate what it is that they do today and how they do it. And it's not until somebody comes into the organization or into the team and then they're trying to fumble around and train them in what they do in their day to day. So it's like, what do we currently do and what's the reality, not what's in our policies and procedures and, work breakdowns. It's like, what do we actually do day to day? And so you're helping them to do that. And it's an engagement opportunity, because then through that process, you can go, great, what's not working? Like, what would you love to see more of? If you could rewrite this or restart this from the beginning, like, what would you recommend that we do? And then you can pull ties between what the new solution will do to, great, you said you would love to have this thing. This new solution does it for you. And you're bringing them on the journey of the change. You're getting them involved. You're getting them empowered around what it's going to mean for them. And like, something else that I love to give clients is this tool, which is like a spot the difference tool, where a team actually goes through how they currently do something, how they'll do something in the new world, and what that's going to change for them. And like I mentioned, it's democratizing change management skills, because you're teaching somebody how to do their own impact assessment, essentially. And so it's like you're kind of bringing people on the journey, and then that is just so powerful, because then it all doesn't rest on the shoulders of the leader. We as leaders, we have a lot already resting on our shoulders. We have a lot of responsibility and a lot of commitments, and often everybody's looking to us for the answers. But what this does, when you co-create and co-design with your people, it means that, you don't have to have all the answers yourself. Everything doesn't have to rest on your shoulders. You can share the, in inverted commas, burden of change with your people, and you end up with a better result at the end as well. So it's win-win all round.
Yeah, change management through involvement. I love that old saying, tell me and I'll forget, show me and I might know something, but involve me and I'll understand. And it's so true. Often with technology, we get fired up about that technology, and then we just think, how do we get people to use it? And what process do we put it on? Whereas I feel it needs to be flipped. How do we engage our people? How do we understand where our process challenges are to deliver extra value, like you say, Lata? And then, okay, how can technology help us achieve that future state that the teams come up with? Like that is true change management. But I think sometimes we're rushing after the short fix. Let's just deploy the software. But it's not a short fix. It becomes long-term pain, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's shocking. And Lata, I really appreciate the conversation and the knowledge you've shared for our community. It's amazing. And you're thinking around the whole employee journey and owning their career, and then involving them in change management and ways we can go about that. Truly brilliant. How can people connect with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can absolutely come and follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot there about change management and change leadership. And then, my new book has just launched, so Pioneer Your Career Change. And, that's obviously great for your people because it does start to put them into the driver's seat of their own career, or maybe even for yourself, if you're listening, like, you might be more senior and seasoned in your career, and you might be thinking, what do I want my life and lifestyle to look like? And it might be, going down more of the fractional or independent route. So it could, potentially be of interest to you as well. And then what I would also say is I've got a free download. It's my creative launch ideas guide for change management. So it's got 53 ways to bring your change and transformation to life. So really, really powerful. It's got all of these ideas as to how you can start to bring your team on the journey of the change. So you can grab that from latahamilton.com/launch. So latahamilton.com/launch. And obviously my book can be found on Amazon. So.
Lata, well, thank you for everything you have done and will continue to do going forward, I know, to help organizations, I guess, become way better places to work and deliver greater value. And appreciate you being on the show and helping us create a better future.
Thank you so much, Brad. It's been great.
Thanks, Lata. Bye for now.
Bye.
What a great episode. Remember, you can go to Lata's website, latahamilton.com/launch, to get hold of a change transformation document that gives you 53 ways to bring it to life. It's a really good opportunity to get hold of that, download it, and use it to create better outcomes and benefits going forward. There were two key takeaways for me from that episode. Firstly, was when it comes to change management, the importance of involving people. And I love Lata's discussion around actually engaging people in concepts like the change coming up and using change management, and then in process mapping and helping them define the future state, and then them involved in actually the change program. And together with that, the mention on building leadership capability in change management, I thought that was beautiful. The second key takeaway for me was actually engaging employees to empower them, break that paternal type child relationship, and help them start to own their career, their development, their future, and their growth, which of course we need like never before with the amount of new capability we need in our organizations and new skills. There's no better way than create this empowered approach to truly develop that. And the outcomes for organizations will just be brilliant. Thanks again, Lata, for everything you have done and will continue to do in helping us create a better future. Bye for now.